afternoon. Welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for the final show of the week, and that can only mean it's time for the weekend preview. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon is Marcus Ally. Marcus, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, George. It's been a while since I've been on one of these preview shows, so looking forward to throwing some controversial predictions into the mix, and it's a great slate that we've got lying ahead this weekend.
Yeah, some great games to get into. 7 fixtures we're going to be talking about in the next half an hour or so. We are live across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Do let us know, are you going to a game this weekend? What are your predictions for your team? Let's get started with the Championship. So first up, we're going to be looking at Huddersfield, Sheffield United. Tomorrow's lunchtime game in the Championship, 12:30 kick-off. A Yorkshire derby between two playoff contenders. Huddersfield inside the top 6, Sheffield United just outside, looking to get themselves in contention for the playoffs by the end of the season. Marcus, this looks a great game on paper, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Really tightly fought encounter, probably. I think it's really boiling up nicely, isn't it? The sort of playoff chasing race, and Huddersfield Town in 5th place are probably the side that the neutral is expecting to fall away more than any others. So it's going to be a really interesting sort of measure to see how they get on against an informed Sheffield United side. Obviously, the same applies to the Blades as well. 7 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss since Paul Heckingbottom took over from Slavisa Jokanovic in the league. Of course, Billy Sharp back to his best in midweek. Morgan Gibbs-White returning from injury as well, which I think was a hugely significant moment coming off the bench at Bramall Lane against West Bromwich Albion. The Blades have won 4 on the bounce, including 3 clean sheets in that period of time, so they'll be full of confidence. However, the Terriers have only lost 3 times at home all season, that coming against Fulham, Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough. So everything points towards a very close match. And of course, the repercussions on the table and the promotion race could be hugely significant as well.
There's so many different factors to consider in this one. You just look at the table. Huddersfield do have a little bit of a gap, towards the teams below them. There's so many teams below them as well, within a couple of points of each other too. If Huddersfield lose, they're potentially going to be, drawn right back towards that gaggle below them. It's a huge game for the Terriers. But saying that, Sheffield United, games in hand on most of those sides around them as well. In terms of a prediction, Marcus, who do you think is going to be able to deal with the pressure more? And who do you think needs the result more as well, looking at the way things are currently in the Championship?
I would say that the pressure is still off Huddersfield Town. They were tipped for a relegation battle by a lot of people, including myself, at the start of the season. And I feel like there probably is still a sense of optimism of, we're kind of in this position without the expectation to sustain it or to really kick on from it. Whereas Sheffield United, in their first season since relegation from the Premier League, do have to shoulder a little bit more of a burden of expectation. I do think the Blades, however, though, they've got so much confidence at the moment, and the options that Heckingbottom's got, even after Rhian Brewster's injury in attacking areas, does have to command a lot of respect. The Terriers won the reverse fixture at Bramall Lane in dramatic fashion, with Levi Colwill stealing the 3 points in second half additional time. So they've got a little bit of bragging rights over them already this season. And being in the early kickoff, of course, adds a little bit of spice to the occasion. I do just lean towards Sheffield United. I think their defence has been so solid in particular. They haven't really been blowing teams away, but I think they will be able to limit the quality of the opportunities that the Terriers are able to create. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for the Blades, for them to keep that upward trajectory, and that they rank 5th in the table on points per game already, despite sitting 10th in the standings. So I think that shows the quality of the side that we're actually talking about, despite the cluster of teams narrowly ranking higher than them.
Yeah, I must say I do have to fancy the Blades here this weekend. In such great form, you'd never be surprised if Huddersfield pull off another fine result the way they've been going this year. But Sheffield United are looking so strong, and that extra quality that you would expect them to have on the pitch this weekend might just tell in this particular Yorkshire derby. Elsewhere in the Championship, Nottingham Forest host Stoke. 2 more teams in the playoff picture at the moment. Forest, like Sheffield United, flying since a managerial change, and obviously Stoke started the season particularly well, have had their ups and downs, and are just towards the bottom of that Championship playoff gaggle that we mentioned earlier on in the show. Marcus, is a big game between two teams that are obviously, as we mentioned, in the top six picture. The way Forest are looking at the moment, though, it's probably safe to say that no side is going to relish playing them at the moment.
Yeah, it's not one of the nicest encounters you want to see crop up at the moment. Nottingham Forest, particularly at the City Ground as well. That was a huge win in midweek against Blackburn Rovers, so that they're going to be full of confidence, sort of still riding that wave after dispatching Leicester City in the FA Cup last weekend. Stoke, on the other hand, I still don't think we can write off. That they got a good win in midweek over Swansea, and it was maybe more so due to an injury crisis that they did fall away from the promotion picture in the last couple of months. And also, if they can somehow tame the likes of Keenan Davis and Brennan Johnson, I do think they might be able to frustrate Forest here. Obviously, Steve Cooper's men are firing on all cylinders. That the absence of Lewis Grabman hasn't been felt at all. Keenan Davis has made such an incredible impact at the top of the pitch. So I'm sure Forest will be confident of kicking on. But Stoke, with some very dangerous attacking options. We've seen the likes of Jadon Philogene-Badace, DiMaggio Wright-Phillips break through in the last few weeks, so that they definitely have a lot to offer, and I can see them causing some problems.
I mean, it's a big opportunity, isn't it, for Stoke? Yes, the challenge is big that Forest present this weekend. We all know about their form and how well they're doing under Steve Cooper, but you only need to look at the league table. Stoke win this game, they're getting themselves right back into that top six area in the table. Yes, they're sort of sitting middle of the standings at the moment, but because it's so close, one victory can propel you right back up there, can't it?
Definitely. I think they had a really good January transfer window. I think Taylor Harwood-Bellis at centre-back is a really good signing, sort of profiting off him falling out of favour at Anderlecht a little bit. Lewis Baker's made a great impact as well. And yeah, that they do seem to be slowly pushing themselves back on that upward trajectory. There have been some parallels to draw from last season, where they had such that positive start and then fell away into mid-table. Although I think it is easy to jump to conclusions given how close it is in the Championship this season, given that there is a couple of wins between sort of 13th and the 8th place or something like that. It is possible to maybe right sides off a little prematurely, and Stoke, some of the football that they've been playing in recent weeks definitely suggests that they should still be right in the mix. However, if they do end up taking nothing from the City Ground and 6th place Forest gain another 3 points on them, then the playoff mission does get a lot more difficult. So I'm sure Michael O'Neill will be identifying this match as a really significant one in the coming weeks. And whenever we do see sides in that mini league sort of, well, really it's sort of like 3rd to 13th, isn't it? When they do face off directly against each other, it is going to be a really momentous occasion, and a match that's going to have a large impact on the rest of the table.
Certainly a big game then between these two. Marcus, which way are you leaning in terms of a score prediction?
I'm sitting on the fence with a 1-1 draw. I do think teams are going to start planning a lot for Keenan Davis and Brennan Johnson. If maybe Forest can't find Davis as frequently as they have been in recent weeks, then they might have to be forced to change their angle of attack slightly. And I think Stoke definitely have enough players and the athleticism and dynamism in the final third to hurt Forest. It wouldn't surprise me if they did pick up a shock victory here, but I'm going to hedge my bets a little bit with a 1-1 draw.
Okay, yeah, I can certainly. It's one of those where you could see it going either way, or of course down the middle with a draw. I'm just leaning towards Forest at the moment. Their form at home has been brilliant. I'm certainly interested to see how they're going to cope now they're a top six side once again. The expectations naturally at Forest are always high, but as soon as they get in that playoff zone, they seem to go through the roof. So it's going to be interesting to see how the players deal with that pressure against a good Stoke side this weekend. One final game to talk about in the Championship before we move to League One. That's Blackpool against Bournemouth. Marcus, it's probably fair to say that Blackpool are potentially the last team maybe in playoff contention this year. You can never rule anyone out, of course. Millwall might want to say something about that just below them with a game in hand on the Tangerines, but so many teams above them might be difficult for them to get involved. But talking about Blackpool, it's a chance for them to try and make hay while some of the other teams are meeting each other in the playoff race. But at the same time, they're welcoming a Bournemouth team that looks like it's potentially starting to find its feet again in the league.
Yeah, really interesting matchup this one. Blackpool unbeaten in their last 5, took a point off of Fulham in that run as well. So it's a really tough match for Scott Parker's men. I wasn't as impressed. I don't think their 3-1 victory over Birmingham City in midweek was anywhere near as comfortable as the scoreline suggests. The 3-1 scoreline, they actually lost the expected goals battle in that match, and there was certainly an element of fortune to Jaden Anthony's third goal. In the affair, Jefferson Lerma picking up a red card, so he'll likely be suspended for tomorrow's match as well. Blackpool have got some great attacking talent. Josh Bowler seems to have gone to a new level, almost taking confidence from the sort of interest in him in January. That seems to have given him a boost almost. The likes of Shane Lavery and Jerry Yates as well have shown what they can do in patches in the final third, and CJ Hamilton as well is coming back into the side in recent weeks, can be a dangerous player on his day. It was a real positive for the Cherries that Solanke got back amongst the goals in midweek, and I'm sure they'll be confident of taking a positive result away from Bloomfield Road. But I do have my reservations about Bournemouth at the moment. I do wonder if that Blues win in midweek does paper over the cracks a little bit. Scott Parker's got a lot of players to please, particularly after the incredible deadline day that they had with those 5 signings. So yeah, it's a tricky one to call, but I think Blackpool will be quietly confident in upsetting the odds. It's a nice sort of underdog occasion for them.
I mean, you make a good point there with all the new signings that Parker's got to try and sort of make gel in a short amount of time than you'd have after a summer window. And then you look at Blackpool, who had a relatively quiet window, I think it's fair to say, made a couple of signs and a few tweaks, but Neil Critchley has got that team very well drilled, and you'd not be shocked if that's what sort of gave them an advantage, particularly if Bournemouth are, looking a little less than cohesive at the moment. It could well give the Tangerines an edge this weekend.
Yeah, certainly. The Cherries are worryingly looking over their shoulders at the likes of Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United, and sort of clutching at straws to try and keep themselves sort of maintain the small cushion that they do have over those sides at the moment. Whether that will last remains to be seen. But yeah, if the game is at 0-0, is at 1-1 after an hour, I think Blackpool are definitely the more comfortable team in the game to sit back and absorb pressure as the Cherries look to make a lot of substitutions and possibly show a bit of desperation to get the result. So yeah, I definitely think that this could be a match where the Tangerines can produce a shock. They have been strong at home this season as well. As I said, unbeaten in their last 5. So they're on better form than Bournemouth at the moment. And if Bournemouth's performance against Boreham Wood last Saturday was anything to go by, they're not the most confident looking attacking side. And I think, that they're not going to slice through Blackpool the way they did Birmingham at times in the first half in midweek.
Okay, that all said, Marcus. Battle of the Seasiders this weekend. Are you siding towards the home team?
I am, 2-1 Blackpool I'm going. I think this could be a really exciting game too. Good attacking sides on their day. I just think, I'm not too convinced about Bournemouth at the moment, even though on paper they're an incredible side. Even Birmingham City sort of came away from the Vitality Stadium thinking they could have got a little bit more, and Blackpool a much better side than them. So I think they can pick up a win here.
Okay, I'm just edging towards a draw here. I can't see Bournemouth winning it for some reason. I think you've kind of persuaded me, Marcus, with what you said about the Cherries, that although they've won the last couple of games in the league, they're still, looking a little bit shaky at times. And, I've always been a fan of Blackpool, what Neil Critchley's done there. So particularly at home, I think they could certainly get at least a draw. Whether it's a home victory or not, we'll have to see. But that rounds out the Championship chat on this weekend preview. Let's get into League One. Okay, League One. Let's look towards the bottom of the table first of all. Morecambe against Gillingham, 2 teams that are down the wrong end, as we've mentioned. Gillingham have picked up a little bit though, Marcus, since Neil Harris has got there. 2 wins he's got under his belt so far in the first few games he's managed. Can you see them getting out of it? It's a big opportunity for them to sort of stake a claim that they are going to get out of the drop zone if they can win at Morecambe this weekend.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity for them to, they did look dead and buried and almost put themselves in touching distance of getting out of the relegation zone. Morecambe have won just 2 of their last 14 games and have really been on a slide since a really positive start to the season under Stephen Robinson. As you mentioned, I think Gills have only conceded, that they've only conceded one goal in those 3 games as well. So 2 clean sheets has clearly shored them up defensively. Neil Harris, I think, is only the Gillingham manager because he wanted to stay local. He said that Colchester United and Gillingham were the only possible jobs that he could take at this stage of his career with his various commitments. And in my opinion, he's a championship level manager without a doubt, managing in the League One relegation zone. The job he did at Millwall was incredible, really, taking them up from League One at the first time of asking, and then having them on the verge of the playoff places. And not only just at Millwall, then at Cardiff City, pushing them up into for a top 6 finish in the 2019-20 season. When you look at how Mick McCarthy and, even Steve Morrison, and how poor the Bluebirds have been since Neil Harris got sacked, they've almost were at a better level when Neil Harris got sacked than where they have been since. So I think that speaks to the job that he did. And he's been such a successful manager so far in his career. And I don't see why not, with the start that he's made at Gillingham, why he can't carry that on. 5 points from safety, quite a lot of ground to make up. But Verdane Oliver got himself back on the score sheet in a huge win over Cambridge United in midweek. They had to wait until the 86th minute winner for Oliver to score the only goal in the game. But they absolutely dominated it. They were the best side for extended periods in that match, and I'm sure they'll be confident of taking that form into the match at Mazuma Stadium against, as I said, a Morecambe side that are just about keeping themselves in touching distance, but it does feel like they're only heading in one direction.
I mean, the reason teams are down at the bottom of the table is because they can't string wins together. Gillingham are sort of threatening to show that they can start stringing wins together under Neil Harris, and he always seems like the kind of manager that goes in there and gets a reaction really quickly. Obviously, it didn't end how he would have liked at Cardiff, and Millwall eventually, his time probably come to a natural end there. But he seems like a manager that really gets the players going. And at this stage of the season, Gillingham only need to put together 5 or 6 wins, and they're going to be well away from this relegation zone. That all said, how do you think Morecambe are going to go about trying to stop them, basically? Because if Gillingham do win, the momentum's firmly with them. And you look at the league table as well, and the form table at the bottom of the league, most of the sides from Shrewsbury down aren't really winning games, I think it's fair to say, or they're winning games in isolation. None of them are putting a string of form together. So, Morecambe aren't just going to be doing it for themselves this weekend, but potentially for a few of the sides around them if they do win.
Absolutely. Yeah, we saw this kind of low margin approach somehow dig Burton out of trouble from being seemingly dead and buried last season. That was a lot of 1-0 wins. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank went in there and focused on solidifying them defensively before looking to do anything more expansive. And they were able to, as you mentioned, string the wins together and get themselves out of trouble. I think Gillingham will be looking to do the same. Obviously, they were shipping goals. I think it might have been the last game before Harris took the job that they lost 7-2 at home to Oxford. So to go from that to conceding just 1 goal in 3 games is a sensational turnaround. And I think Morecambe only really know how to play one way. They've got one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive record in League One. So they are going to have to attack Gillingham. It'll be interesting to see how that sort of dynamic develops. But I think the Gills will be confident of another defensively assured display. And I think they can pick up a 1-0 win and take themselves closer to catching up with the likes of Wimbledon and Fleetwood just above Morecambe.
Yeah, I'm siding with you here, Marcus, for this one. I can see Gillingham getting a good result as well. I think, Harris has already had a massive impact. And yes, Morecambe, we know how attacking they like to be, but Gillingham now seem to have an extra air of resilience about them. And they'll know that if they can get a victory this weekend, it's such a statement being sent out to the rest of the league, not just those below them, obviously the couple of sides, Crewe and Doncaster below them, but those just above them that for a while been relying on a big cushion and not picking up the results. Perhaps now Gillingham are on form, we'll start to see some of the sides just above them winning a few more games as well. But Morecambe obviously need to try and stop them this weekend if they can. One other League One game to talk about, Sheffield Wednesday against Rotherham United. Another Yorkshire derby. Obviously, we spoke about Huddersfield and Sheffield United at the top of the show. This is a big game for both sides. Obviously, Marcus, Rotherham trying to extend their gap further at the top of the league. Obviously, Wigan still have plenty of games in hand on them, but Rotherham in great form. They're looking very, very good shouts to be back in the Championship at the end of the season. And Sheffield Wednesday in very good form again as well under Darren Moore. They seem to have picked up of late. This is quite a tough game to call, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. It hasn't just been the recent one for Sheffield Wednesday. They really have pulled themselves back into contention really impressively. They've only lost 3 of their last 20 matches, won their last 4 on the bounce without conceding a goal. Rotherham have won their last 5 on the bounce without conceding a goal, so that trumps the Owls a little bit. But they seem to have found the correct formula. They got the midfield trio of Luongo, Byers, and Bannon. It'll be tricky to find a better midfield 3 in League One than that, and they're definitely a side on the up after coming up the other side of the January transfer window. Rotherham do seem to be on a bit of a procession towards the league title, even though Wigan have games in hand. They are 9 points clear of second place, which is an incredibly commanding position to be in at this stage of the season. So it is a really evenly matched encounter, I think, as you look at sort of the way these teams have performed over the last few months. Going to be interesting to see how Rotherham get on. Sheffield won the reverse fixture 2-0, one of Rotherham's only sort of recent, well, not too recent, but losses before they went on that incredible run to rise to the top of the league. So it's going to be evenly matched, very competitive. 2 of the sides that came down from the Championship last season, of course. And yeah, I don't see both of these sides sort of keeping their winning runs. Well, obviously it's impossible for them to keep their winning runs going. But yeah, I think Sheffield Wednesday will be quietly confident of giving the league leaders a run for their money.
I mean, Rotherham's sort of points tally kind of distorts the way things look for Sheffield Wednesday. Yes, Sheffield Wednesday are 13 points off of top at the moment, but they're 4 points off of Wigan in second. Obviously, we've mentioned Wigan's game in hand, and we probably expect the Latics to pull away a little bit. But Sheffield Wednesday are firmly in that playoff picture at the moment, aren't they? And Darren Moore, yes, they had a lot of injuries at the start of the season, but there was probably a feeling amongst Sheffield Wednesday fans that he didn't really have a clear idea of what his strongest team was. But do you think, in more recent weeks, and obviously in the grander scheme of things, the unbeaten run's been very good as well of late. Do you think he's finally found a team that he likes and he's going to stick with?
I think so. I think he's found the right system to be playing with the group of players he's got at his disposal. They've definitely shored up defensively as well. They've still got the likes of Dominic Iorfa to come back into the side, who was so impressive at the start of the season. So that sets a really strong foundation if you are going to get into the playoffs. We've seen the likes of Wycombe fall away a little bit in recent weeks, having been part of that automatic promotion conversation. Now they look like they're just trying to sort of keep the likes of Sheffield Wednesday at bay. So yeah, while they're still trying to knock on the door of the top 6, you can be pretty sure that momentum is going to continue. Of course, it's one of the toughest games of the season, but the way Rotherham have been performing, it has been quite a lot of low margin victories, even though that they've been so solid defensively. I think maybe 3 1-goal victories out of their last 4, something like that. So they haven't been quite as convincing as they were sort of in the lead up to Christmas. So I think Wednesday can take something out of this game. I think the strong defensive records will remain intact, but possibly with 2 sides cancelling each other out for a goalless draw.
Yeah, I can see a draw myself, Marcus. 2 sides are in great form, and normally when that happens, they do cancel each other out. But potentially, they may both be happy with a point come the end of the season. When you're facing a team that's in form, a draw's never a bad thing. And given the grander scheme of things, they might be happy with that come the end of the season. We'll have to see what happens between those two. Let's get on to the League 2 chat before we go then, and we're going to kick off with a clash towards the top of the league. Forest Green's march towards the title continues at fine pace. Last week, obviously, they beat Newport County. They beat Rochdale in the week as well. Now they travel to Sutton United, another side that's just below them in the league in terms of places, but in terms of points, they're quite far off. Having said that, Marcus, Sutton are very strong at home and will fancy giving FGR a real test this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been one of the most difficult away days in League Two so far this season. Sutton are also unbeaten in their last 9, and they've kept 4 clean sheets in their last 5, which speaks to how they've been so hard to beat over that stretch, because they haven't been prolific in it. I think they've only scored more than 1 goal on 1 occasion in their last 5, but against the teams around them, they have been very successful, picking up points and taking those off of their direct rivals. Obviously, it was the opening day of the season when the reverse fixture happened, and Forest Green had to rely on a stoppage time winner in the second half to earn the 3 points. So that speaks to what a close match that it could go on to be. Although previewing this match, it is really difficult to make any kind of case that isn't a Forest Green win, just because of how unbelievably good they've been this season. Matt Stevens has risen to the top of the scoring charts in recent weeks, has overtaken his teammate Jamil Matt. Sutton tend to share the goals out a lot more than the Green. David Ajiboye is their top scorer with just 7 league goals, whereas you look at the numbers that Matt and Stephen, 17 and 20 respectively, are posting, it does show that they're clearly getting a lot more chances and maybe finishing at a stronger rate. So yeah, it's really hard to deny Forest Green in any fixture. They seem to be in a league of their own in League Two this season, and I can see that carrying on, even despite how well Sutton have been performing on a consistent basis in the last few months.
You'd never be surprised by Sutton winning this game. It's been such a fabulous season for them. Their home form has been brilliant. And they're a side that's firmly in that automatic promotion pitch at the moment. A win could potentially move them back inside the top 3. Having said that, Marcus, Forest Green just look a cut above, don't they? And perhaps in years gone by, a league leader would have lost a game like this, but Forest Green just look an extra class above, don't they? And for that reason, I think I'm probably agreeing with you that they're probably going to go on to win this one. Do you think this weekend, FGR?
Yeah, I'm going for a 1-0 win. They have been grinding them out a little bit more lately. It hasn't been quite as convincing. I think they beat Newport 2-1. They got a 1-1 draw at Port Vale, and Vale with a better side in that encounter. So they haven't been as ruthless maybe as they have been in previous months. And Sutton away, as we've mentioned, is one of the toughest matches on the calendar at the moment. But I just think they've got quality all over the pitch. They've definitely got a deeper squad than what is at Matt Gray's disposal as well. So I think they'll be able to maybe weather an early storm and then gain some control at Gander Green Lane and take a 1-0 win back to Gloucester.
Okay, they'll certainly be happy with that. Happy with that on the road to promotion. They'll hope it's going to be. Marcus, one final game to talk about in League Two. Between Northampton and Port Vale. Northampton travelling up to Port Vale tomorrow afternoon. 8th hosting 3rd in the league. It's a good opportunity for Vale, isn't it? They've got games in hand on most above them in the league. Obviously, there's the saying that you'd rather have the points on the board than the games in hand, but even so, it's something for Port Vale to hold on to. And they can close the gap, not just to obviously those sides in the playoff places, but the automatic spots as well if they beat Northampton this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think Vale are one of, if not the team to watch in this promotion race, looking ahead to the final few months of the season. They were in and around the top 3 for a period of time before suffering an injury crisis and falling away. I think they've taken 4 points off Forest Green Rovers this season, winning away from home, and then that draw that I just mentioned. I don't think that's got to be one of the best records against the league leaders this season. And Darryl Clark's men made some good signings in January. Chris Hussey at left wing back, I think, is a superb signing. Has had such success with Cheltenham Town in the last few years in League Two. So yeah, I think Vale are rightful favourites going into this encounter. Northampton have been relying on set pieces quite a bit. They're the best set piece team in League Two by a mile. Fraser Horsfall and John Guthrie have been incredibly prolific centre-backs for them this season, and their last 7 victories in League Two have all come by a single goal margin. How sustainable that is if you want to achieve automatic promotion, I'm not so sure, and with the quality of the likes of Newport and Sutton snapping at their heels, it's going to be difficult to carry it on. So I do think Vale are rightful favourites and will be able to continue their upward momentum and break into that top 7 before having a real go at the top 3.
I mean, you mentioned Northampton's recent form. Interesting set of results, really. In the last 7 games, there's only been 1 goal in 6 of those. And in the other one, it was a 1-1 draw. So it's not been the most entertaining affair that the Cobblers have been involved in. On New Year's Day, though, they were involved in a 5-2 game, obviously losing at Swindon. So in some respects, I suppose fans will be happy they've tightened up a little bit from that game. But, Northampton defensively have been pretty sound all season, haven't they? So I guess in that respect, and given where Port Vale are just outside the top 7 and they want to keep them at arm's length, the Cobblers would probably be quite happy with a 0-0 draw or obviously a 1-0 nicked win, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I would have thought so. I think Keon Etete being recalled by Tottenham in January did hurt their sort of attacking options quite a bit. They have been very reliant on Sam Hoskins and Mitch Pinnock to come up with the imagination in the final third to break deadlocks and breach back lines so far this season. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Port Vale win. I think they are possibly the stronger side come the end of the season. Northampton's defensive process is going to give them a chance, whatever. I fully expect them to remain possibly competitive for automatic promotion and inside that playoff picture right until the business end of the season. But Vale, I do see as a side with a higher ceiling, and definitely if they can get it right on a consistent basis, a side that's more likely to gain automatic promotion, obviously, if they are to gain victory this weekend. So yeah, I'm going 2-0 to Vale.
Okay, that's going to be a welcome victory for Vale. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between these two teams. I look at Northampton's results; they seem to be picking up those kind of score lines at the moment, and I think in a big game like this, they'd probably be quite pleased to take a point back towards Sixfield. Just before we go, time to tell you where our writers for Football League World are this weekend. I pluralised it, but it's just me actually that's out on my travels this weekend. I'm off at Plough Lane, Wimbledon against Sunderland. Obviously, Wimbledon looking to try and avoid getting really involved in that relegation scrap. And Sunderland, looks like Alex Neil's going to be at the helm. Don't think it's been officially confirmed while being on air, but it's very likely Alex Neil's going to be the Sunderland manager. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in charge of the Black Cats for the first time this weekend. Let's just do a quick score prediction for that one, Marcus. How do you see that one going?
Oh, it's an intriguing one. I don't think Sunderland are as bad as they have been in recent weeks, so I'll go 2-1 Sunderland.
Yeah, I think potential new manager bounce for the Black Cats could just help them see off the Dons. We'll go for a 2-0 victory for them. And that's it for Football League World TV for the week. Marcus, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Been great to get your thoughts looking ahead to the EFL action this weekend. Before we go, just time for a quick plug. Football League World TV on YouTube. If you can subscribe to us, people at home, that would be great. Would be greatly appreciated. And do like this video as well. It help us continue to try and grow the channel. But from myself and Marcus, it is bye for now, and enjoy the football this weekend.